Hello, everybody. Welcome to another Inspiration Piece episode at Art Whisper 88. Today's focus is a very interesting personality. Her name was Grace Hartigan. She was an American artist, although she really didn't want to tie herself to either abstract or figurative painting. She was a significant member of the New York School of the 1950s and the 1960s. And according to her accounts, when she was a child, she recalled her mother saying, "Grace, you are so dissatisfied, so restless." And this impulse to search, question, and change is recurrent theme in Hartigan's life and work. Now, here's an interesting anecdote. Grace used the name George when exhibiting until 1954, and her choice was practical. Men's work was more valued, unfortunately. Grace cursed like a sailor, and she wore men's clothing, and she praised work over family life. So if being a woman meant behaving in a certain way, then she was also a man. Unlike the other painters of her generation, she never adopted a signature style. No rules, she demanded. I must be free to paint anything I feel. Okay, everybody, here we are at the first part of this journey. I am taking a lot of inspiration from Grace Hartigan's paintings and prints. By the way, she was a very active printmaker, and she partnered with ULAE, which is a printmaking outfit that has done many world-class printmakers. So I will start by, as usual, using my acrylic, Mars Black, and creating some marks. Now, taking inspiration from her pieces, she does not use a lot of color in this case. It's mostly black and one extra color. It could be yellow, it could be magenta, it could be vermilion. So I will start with that as my jumping off point. And the reason I like using this color shaper is it creates a lot of very subtle marks, more so than a brayer or even a brush. So what I'm going to try to do is have two parts of this composition. The heavier part will be on the left, and the lighter part will be on the right. I have to give room for the second color. And once again, I'd like to extend my heartfelt thanks to jellyarts.com, who have donated this wonderful monster plate for me to play with. And the large size really makes a difference in terms of being able to express your feelings through paint. It's very different than when you work on a small scale. This is really a large, significant scale. I think the word is gravitas. It has a lot of weight because of its size. Okay, so this is the first coat of black. I will let this dry partially until I apply the second coat. Now the second coat I will use is Naples yellow. So I'm hoping that the white spaces that you see will take on this Naples yellow. So this is very minimalistic in a way. Usually I use 3, 4 or more colors. This is just 2 colors. And I will be using a wider brayer. Let me just put a drop of oil. I like to put just a teeny drop on the part that touches the handle, so it can spin very easily. Just like any device, you need to lubricate it every now and then in order for it to run smoothly. And again, since this is such a giant plate, I work on it in sections. So what is happening here is the Naples yellow combines with the Mars black, and it actually forms a third color, which is like a mossy green, and it will show up in some spaces, and in other spaces the yellow will be the dominant color. Again, I will be putting my signature marks. Okay. Again, I am using my 22 by 30 Richeson watercolor paper. It's 100% acid-free, and it has sizing. That's why it is very thick. It's thick, but not too much. it just gives it enough strength to handle the stress of pulling off the gel plate. So I have to indicate something here. This is pretty important when you are leaving this. It's not so much the pressure that you apply on the plate that makes the transfer. To my experience, it's really the time involved, because the longer you leave the paper, the more chances that the vehicle or the pigment is absorbed into the fibers. You have to remember, paper is made of fibers. If you look under a microscope, the paper is composed of woven fibers, and the paint seeps into all the little microscopic pores of the fibers. And the longer you leave your paper, the more pigment gets absorbed. And the mark of a good transfer is that almost all the pigment transfers, that hardly anything is left on the plate. Not that having leftover is a bad thing. Sometimes I do it on purpose, so I have good ghost prints. But as a general rule, I like to leave the paper on for 5 to 6 minutes. That's just me. Some people leave it longer, some people can't wait. It's entirely up to you, depending on what results that you are looking for, because everyone's taste is different. Okay, everybody, let's see how we did here. I think it's a good transfer. There are some very clean areas of yellow, and then there are some areas with the secondary color, which is like a mossy green. It's a combination of yellow and black. So far, so good. And it hasn't torn yet. Okay. Check this out. I really like this. All right. I'm just going to keep going with the same principle of 2 colors with a black foundation and a secondary brighter color. This time I will use squirt bottle. Okay, let's see if it's a little bit of a challenge to calculate how much is necessary for such a big plate. There's no hard and fast rule. You just have to figure it out by learning, by practice. So the little bits of color, especially the magenta, are pretty much random, and this is in keeping with it being a true abstract piece. Sometimes you associate the images with familiar things like clouds or faces, certain animals, but that's purely accidental. And it is normal for the human brain to associate random shapes with familiar things. I used to do that when I was little. I would stare at the clouds in the sky and see all kinds of fantastic things. Okay, this is exciting. Let's see how we made out. I always know that it's a good transfer when the plate sticks to the paper. I just have to pry it off, especially the first few inches, and then I let the weight of the plate make it go down. Wow, this is really, it's really stuck very tight on the plate, so I have to be very careful. Now I find that if I pull at an angle, instead of pulling it straight on, it comes off more easily. And I kind of wiggle it, go left and right, but do it very, very slowly, very carefully, so as not to tear the paper. And this is where the plexiglass bottom comes in very handy, because the sticky backside of the plate sticks to the plexiglass. Otherwise the plate will just fly off. Very cool. All right, I will do one last pull, and I will be using turquoise and black. So what the color shaper does is create these little ribbons. I call them ribbons of marks. And since the color shaper is made of silicone rubber, it glides very well on the gel plate. The paint actually acts as a lubricant, so it cuts down on the friction. Okay, I will be switching to a wider Okay, here goes a second coat. This is Lucas Turquoise Deep. I made a smear here. Just clean this up before it gets worse. That's what happens when I don't check my hands. Unfortunately, it's the back side of the print, but even if it's the back side, I really want it to be clean. no smudges or fingerprints. That's just me, even if you don't see the backside. Okay. Okay, let's see how we made out here. I screwed up on the edge. My hand wasn't clean. Okay, this one seems to be coming off much better. I have a little tear there. I'm gonna fix that. Now this piece seems to have a more clear-cut area of turquoise and black. There's not so much of a third color. I like that. Again, I have to employ the pinky trick. I've got some bad smears on the edges, but I'll deal with that later. So I will air dry all three pieces and I will recap. Okay everybody, here's my favorite part of this session. It's where I get to show you the final product. This is the first pull, and here's a close-up. I think the black textures are very effective. Now let me put this to one side and show you the inspiration piece. And here's the second piece. With the magenta color as a secondary color. Again, I will put this to the right, and you have the inspiration piece on the left. And here is the last piece. I hope you liked this video. This was a lot of fun to do, and it was quite an eye-opener when I started researching on Miss Hartigan's life story. And she's a great inspiration, not just for women artists, but for all artists to overcome prejudices and obstacles. Just keep going. And she really is truly a great inspiration. And it's unfortunate that her name is not more widely known among the American abstract artists and painters. So thank you so much for watching. Thank you for subscribing. Please check out artwhisper88.com, which is my storefront. And all of these are for sale, and the proceeds help to keep this channel going. Thank you once more, and keep on rolling. I hope to see you next time.